Good morning and welcome to the second virtual FDP meetings. My name is Michelle Masucci. I'm the Vice President for Research at Temple University and co-chair of the Federal Demonstration Partnership. I would like to recognize Dr. Robert Nobles, Vice Chair of the Faculty Committee, who will join me in moderating today's session a little bit later on. Speaking on behalf of Dick Seligman, my fellow co-chair, Alex Albanak, the co-chair-elect, and Debbie Raffi, who we affectionately refer to as the Dean of the Federal Partnership, I want to convey our thanks to our members for their hard work since we last met in May. I also wish to welcome our new members that have joined us for our virtual meetings. We sincerely hope that all is going well with you and your institutions as we strive to overcome the challenges of providing outstanding educations and advancing the nation's research enterprise in the context of the national COVID crisis. We eagerly look forward to being able to reconvene in person when it is safe to do so. Following today's plenary session, we will host the FDP business meeting. After a short break, we will begin the Federal Updates plenary session. There are many additional sessions scheduled throughout the week. You can find the entire agenda for the meetings at our website, thefdp.org. It is still possible to sign up for sessions, so please do not hesitate to do so. Now, let us turn to today's keynote address. It is my great privilege and honor to introduce today's keynote speaker, my colleague and dear friend, the Honorable Dr. Sethuraman Panchanathan, Director of the National Science Foundation. Dr. Panch, as he is widely, respectfully, and affectionately known, is an electrical and computer engineer recently installed as the 15th Director of the National Science Foundation. He was nominated to the position by the President in 2019 and subsequently was unanimously confirmed by the US Senate in June of this year. As you may know, the National Science Foundation is an $8.3 billion independent federal agency and the only one charged with advancing all fields of scientific discovery, technological innovation, and STEM education. Dr. Panch has been a leader in science, engineering, and education for more than 3 decades. He has a distinguished career in both higher education and government, where he has advocated for knowledge enterprise development. He previously served as the Executive Vice President of Arizona State's Knowledge Enterprise, where he was also the Chief Research and Innovation Officer. He is the founder and director of the Center for Cognitive Ubiquitous Computing at ASU. Under his leadership, ASU increased research performance 5-fold, earning recognition as the fastest growing and most innovative institution in the United States. Prior to joining NSF, Dr. Panch served on the National Science Board as the chair of the Committee on Strategy. He was also a member of the External Engagement and the National Science and Engineering Policy Committees. He has served on the National Advisory Council on Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And many of us in this forum know him as the former chair of the Council on Research of the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities, APLU. Dr. Panch's scientific contributions have advanced the areas of human-centered multimedia computing, haptic user interfaces, person-centered tools, and ubiquitous computing technologies for enhancing the quality of life for individuals with disabilities, machine learning for multimedia applications, medical image processing, and media processor designs. He has published nearly 500 papers in refereed journals and conference proceedings and has mentored countless graduate students, postdocs, research engineers, research scientists, and others who now occupy leading positions on their own right in academia and in industry. He is a fellow of the National Academy of Inventors, the American Association for the Advancement of Science, AAAS, the Canadian Academy of Engineering, the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, and the Society of Optical Engineering. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Panchanathan into this forum. I now turn our attention to his presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Masucci. And as you said, I call you Michelle. So Michelle, it's just a delight to be able to be here with all of you today. And, I want to take a moment to recognize Dr. Dick Seligman, who has served the research community for many years. Dick, many thanks for all that you do and all that you have done as co-chair of FDP. Dr. Seligman also previously served on the NSF's Business Operations Advisory Committee, and the progress of the research community would not be possible unless dedicated people like Dr. Seligman put in all their energies into the FTP and entities like that. So I hope you will all join in thanking him, first of all, before we even get to the presentation. So thank you, Dick, for all that you have done. We really appreciate that. And it's truly a pleasure to be with, as I would say, among friends, people that I know through my many associations through the Vice President of Research role that I played at Arizona State University, to the Council of Research, and a host of other things. I've admired FDP, Koger, and others without whom we will not be able to, as a research enterprise in the various universities, advance the research activities in our universities. They are tremendous. And so I want to take a moment to also recognize the incoming co-chair, Alex Albinac, Vice President Alex Albinac from Johns Hopkins, Robert Nobles, who I've known for many years, the Vice Chair of the Faculty Committee, David Wright, the Director of FDP, Liliana Andrews, Mary Gittleman, and Salam Araya, who have all from the National Academies, been able to put this all together today. So I would be remiss if I didn't start with thanking all of them for their efforts in making today possible. So let me dive into my presentation. I know you're all eager to know what I'm thinking in terms of where we are going to be moving forward with NSF. As you know, NSF is an outstanding agency that I'm so privileged to have the opportunity to be a part of as we move into the future. I thought that I will formulate this or frame this in what I call the advancing the frontiers of research, the future of the scientific enterprise, as how this talk will move forward. So let me see if I can move this presentation slides. Let me see if I have the control. It says I can control it, and I'm trying to do it. Yes, good. I have the control, good. So I went too far. So let me go back. Okay, so you will all understand that NSF is not something that happened just a few years back. It's been a 70-year in existence entity, and the genesis of all of that is the unbelievable genius of Vannevar Bush after the World War II came out with this amazing Science: The Endless Frontier document that he presented to the president at that time. And he said that NSF would fund high risk, high reward research that would seed growth across the entire US enterprise. And you could arguably say the Federal Demonstration Project, FTP, reflects that mission and is an important part of realizing the full benefits of that proposition. So that essentially leads me to my next slide, where I want to talk about the vision. Somehow I am not, okay, good. So there are 3 pillars that I have outlined for my vision. And this essentially was distilled by a presentation that I made to the Commerce Committee when I gave a testimony, Senate Commerce Committee last year, as well as working in the National Science Board in the 2030 vision that was set forth. And the convergence of all of that led me to identify these 3 major pillars called the advancing the frontiers of research into the future. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Ensuring accessibility and inclusivity, we're going to talk about that. And that's an exceedingly important imperative as a nation for us. And securing global leadership. And we're going to talk a little bit about that too. But all of that underlined by this partnership, which is an exceedingly important imperative for move the agency forward, and how we might partner with many, many, many entities like the Federal Demonstration Project, most importantly, the scientific community, academia, and a host of other partners that I'm going to outline very soon for all of you. But in doing all of this, that we will do it with the thread of innovation that will essentially weave through everything that we do in the agency, as well as what we make possible by the agency in the various constituencies that we interact with. So that's the overarching vision, if you may. So I'm trying to move to the next slide. Let's see if that works. It seems to have a delay. Let's see. Okay. So in the frontiers of research, what I wanted to do was to talk about the various components of that. The first is the curiosity-driven research. As we all know, that NSF is the place where curiosity-driven research happens in droves. It will always be the place which will be defined by curiosity-driven research. And that is the hallmark of what NSF has done and will always do into the future. And there are many, many things that happen because of curiosity-driven research at NSF and the investments that we make. I always talk about how even if we were to take the current ideas that are at NSF and you were to say that now we were to increase the number of proposals that are being funded from an average of 20% success to 30% success, or we increase the size of the proposals that we fund to, let's say, by 50% more, which I think will be well warranted. And if you now take the award duration and increase it from the average of 3 years to 4 or 5 years, now right there you could argue that the agency needs to be doubled in terms of its budget to accomplish just those 3 goals. You can see there are fantastic ideas there that can essentially enable and unleash the unbelievable talent, unbelievable ideas across the nation to move those forward. So curiosity-driven research is the platform under which NSF operates and will always operate into the future, as I said earlier. Now, if you look at some of these unbelievable opportunities that come about along the way, now COVID is a huge challenge, we all know that. But every challenge is something that as a scientific community, we look to how we might engage and take those as opportunities for really creating impact. And so these emerging opportunities in COVID, I have found that NSF is playing a very significant role in, again, unleashing the innovations of the unbelievable power that is there in undergraduate students, in graduate students, and doctoral and postdoctoral ideas that are there, along with faculty innovations, all being brought together in solving these problems. There are many, many examples of that, and I can walk you through that, but in the interest of time, I'm going to just only say that even with small investments at the scale of 200K, when I look at the amazing outcomes that come out of those investments, it really warms my heart and says that this scientific community that we are trying to inspire and invest in can actually come out with unbelievable innovations if only we were to take the appropriate time and make sure that we infuse those investments that can unleash that potential. So there are many examples, and in the interest of time, I'm not walking through with those today, but I'm happy to share with you all of those. These are available in the websites of NSF, but happy to share them with you if you have any specific questions. The next major conceptualization, if you were to walk through the history of NSF, in the 80s, when we walk through the various decades of NSF, in the 80s, we started looking at doing things at larger scale, even more intensely. And many centers were being conceptualized, the engineering research centers, the science and technology centers, etc. Today, we have over 60 centers across the nation, physics frontier centers, chemistry, chemical innovation centers, right? And MERSECs, material science engineering research innovation centers. All of these are centers that span the nation. And engineering research centers are just one example of those. So if you take the research centers across the nation, they bring together unbelievable ideas in teams, partnering across academia, industry, and even international boundaries and with industry, and make sure that we are advancing these ideas in a timely manner to have significant impact. And again, the bedrock of that being curiosity-driven research. Now, just 2 weeks ago, we launched the next generation of the 4 engineering research centers. And if you just look at the title of those centers that is here, you know, ERC, Advanced Technologies for Preservation of Biological System. Sustainability through powered infrastructure for roadway electrification. Quantum networks. Internet of Things for precision agriculture. Right there you see the unbelievable potential of the fundamental ideas that are being brought out to life, but also looking at how that impacts the range of things that the society needs today and the nation needs today from a societal perspective, from an economic perspective. So those are the kinds of things that research centers as conceptualization also augment in addition to the curiosity-driven research ideas that are being fostered. Again, talking about a couple of weeks ago, you might have also have noticed that we launched this concept of AI through these 7 centers that span 20 different states through partnerships with industry, academia. We had 7 MSIs participating in that, HBCU, Tuskegee University as a partner in one of the AI institutes. We are so pleased that these AI institutes are now bringing out the latent talent that is there across the nation. We just announced 8 more new AI institute calls for them. In fact, one of those AI institutes is made possible in addition to the investments that NSF is making because of the collective investments of industry. That we were able to get $20 million more to be able to get 1 more AI institute funded. This again connotes how NSF's ideas are not only being invested in by the federal government, but with partnership with industry, we're able to now get more action and activity and impact created. And one of the things that we are hoping for is that this AI Institutes concept, the 7 and the 8 that is coming about, can actually unleash the potential of the AI ideas that is in K-12, that is in community colleges, that's in four-year colleges, that's in research universities, that is in industry, that's in the community, that will unleash all of those ideas in every state. So this concept of AI in every state, you could think of it as a platform idea. How might we take that AI in every state idea? Now, AI can be replaced by whatever that is the future of the industries of the future, that NSF funds through this unbelievable curiosity-driven activity. You will all agree that this AI in every state idea is made possible because of the decades of investments that we have made in AI through the various investments that NSF has made in academia. So likewise, the investments that we're making today, in addition to AI, but in curiosity-driven research, you will all agree, is what is going to unleash those ideas for the future. And that's what NSF is really good at. And so this is one platform that I've been wanting to foster and get engagement from across the nation. And you will hear more about the talent across the nation in a moment when I talk about inclusivity and access. It is our responsibility to ensure that talent is given the opportunity to be brought out across the nation. Likewise, if you look at another national platform-like idea, that is a National Quantum Institute that we recently announced again in partnership with the Department of Energy. It is an unbelievable platform. These institutes bring together amazing ideas from across the nation. Again, how might you take those ideas and make it accessible for everyone, wherever they live across the nation, that they're able to tap into this platform and be able to bring out their creative ideas. So this national quantum platform will therefore be advanced in a way that it provides opportunities for anybody and everybody across the nation to be able to have access to this platform. That way, these kinds of ideas that are bringing the talent across the nation and empowering them is how we might want to move forward in the larger conceptualizations that we are trying to build through NSF's catalyzing effects. The next idea that we are fostering and moving forward is this idea of resilience. Resilience, where you might bring together those concepts that might help you to bring those ideas that I talked about in addressing the pandemics today, or earthquakes, or hurricanes, or Earth system as a whole, and looking at Earth system science. And that we might be focused on this concept of American resilience in many forms and facets, including economic resilience and competitiveness. And this is the thing that we would like to invest in more, and we have already started to look at that conceptualization. And again, in the biotech, bioeconomy, how might we take the unbelievable innovations that's happening right now, nature-inspired research in biology, that can be then taken, and those ideas being unleashed to see how that future of biotechnology can be shaped. And that might then result in robust bioeconomies of the future. Again, all of these, I keep emphasizing this, is all because of the curiosity-driven research as the foundation of what NSF does. Next idea. And you will start to see the pattern here. Each of these ideas clearly emphasize one of the directorates of NSF, but not just the directorate. All these ideas are cross-directorate ideas, be it research centers, be it AI in every state, be it the National Quantum Platform, be it resilience, be it biotech and bioeconomy, and now learning everywhere. And you will all be able to attest to this, that we have been through this unbelievable expectation that came about in 2 weeks in March. The academia, K-12 and other systems are now, and what we are communicating through today in terms of how the FTP meeting is happening, all of this is possible because we can make technology work for us in unbelievable ways that can extend learning to learning everywhere. And this can become truly an opportunity. Well, it was a huge challenge that made us all, regroup and unleash the potential of technology, working with the creative genius of the faculty and the students to be able to now get learning everywhere and anywhere. Now that can be used for all kinds of advantages that we can garner to be able to make highest quality learning possible wherever you are in the nation. Now NSF has been funding those projects for many years now, and we are happy to see that some of those pilot projects are gaining even more traction because the context that we are in, and we plan to have even more investments to be able to get together with industry and others and foundation and others who have similar ideas and expectations to be able to get learning everywhere unleashed across the nation. And so, led by our EHR directorate, again in partnership with SAIS, engineering and others, this is an unbelievable idea that I think is going to have a lot of future potential. In doing all of this, we all know at the end of the day, we have to empower these ideas such that we take the inputs from how the social behavioral framing of all of this is, so that we may have real impact. Now, the SBE directorate does unbelievable things, not only by what the directorate funds, but also how they work as seamlessly as a thread with all the other agencies in making sure that all those innovations are moderated, are inspired by the social behavioral component that becomes part of how we think about technological evolution and scientific evolution into the future. And so as you can see through all of this, and again, there are many examples of projects, and I'm not going to go into that because this talk would require 2 to 3 hours if I were to dive into that level of detail. But you all get it because you're all part, I mean, I'm singing to the choir here, basically. I'm preaching to the choir here, basically, because you all know this already. And so what I want to ensure is that the NSF's future is incorporating all these kinds of ideas as we unleash this latent potential and ideas across the nation. And so the bedrock of all of this, again, I'll emphasize, is that NSF is going to strengthen and scale at scale and speed because of the fact that we are going to be able to now conceptualize various things that then in partnership with various entities across the nation can bring about these amazing innovations to life. Now, imagine now this curiosity-driven platform now being turbocharged even more, so the curiosity-driven activities can be even emphasized and accentuated and accelerated more. But at the same time, it's also taking those ideas and translating them for societal and economic impact and a host of other things that we can do. And the first turbocharging element is what I call partnerships. You will all agree that partnerships amplify and also contextualize the unbelievable innovations that can be had with this curiosity-driven research that is already being funded through NSF's great programs. Now, these partnerships have 2 flavors. Typically, these partnerships can be a catalyzed partnerships that NSF can invest in, or it can be a direct partnership. So before we dive into the details of the partnership, you ask yourself the question, why do we need partnerships? We all know the answers to that. Who do we partner with, and how do we partner with? And if you look at the why do we partner, we all know that any partnership has to have benefits that benefit both sides of the partnership angle. So there should be cleared and aligned value proposition for both partners, for NSF as well as the partner, as well as the scientific community. But always in such cases, there might be costs and risks, but we always look for how value outweighs potential costs and risks. How might those outcomes is what we are focused on, be it research outcomes, innovation outcomes, or educational impacts. And that's why we partner, is to derive these unbelievable outcomes that we can get through our partnerships. As I said, when we partner with, from NSF in 2 forms, what we call direct partnerships, where NSF is able to get industry to co-invest, or in the pre-competitive arena, to co-invest with NSF's programs, and AI in every state was just one example. We have many, many programs where industry co-invests with NSF in our programs, and therefore we are able to now have those programs, again, invest in the fantastic ideas in academia in the various universities. Likewise, we have partnership with foundations and nonprofits. Simon's Foundation is a great example of that. We have other federal agency partnerships. We have state and municipal government partnerships, as well as international partnerships. These are direct partnerships that NSF then engages with, such that the programs that NSF has for academic researchers and others to be able to unleash their ideas is made possible at a higher level of intensity and intentionality. Likewise, NSF's programs also catalyze partnerships. You know, the IUCRCs and other kinds of programs that NSF has, where partnership is brought together by academia, and the proposers bring those partnerships to the table to enrich the programs and the impact created by NSF. So NSF works on both models of partnerships, direct partnerships, as well as catalyzed partnerships. Now the question is, how are we going to scale and speed these partnerships even more? You will hear this constant term, strengthening at scale and speed. That's where we are heading to as NSF. How do we strengthen more? How do we scale more? How do we do this at a greater speed? We have many forms of partnership. It all starts at home, as you will all agree. The partnerships between our various directorates, I call them the intra-agency partnerships. There are many programs, and even more programs now being conceptualized at the confluence of directorates. And the directorates working together in order to now come up with these ideas that can be even more powerful by bringing together researchers across disciplines. For example, if you look at the future of work or the technology human frontier, these are partnerships between SAIS or engineering or SBE and other directorates coming together and working to unleash those ideas. So we might get even more richer outcomes. And that through those ideas at the confluence, we have even more partners wanting to come and participate in that innovation that we are trying to get even more emphasized and accelerated. We have had many interagency partnerships. This is just one example. How do you break the ice, for example, with interagency partnerships? And you have the numerous partners in federal agencies partnering in our Arctic and Antarctic programs. It's amazing to see the level of partnerships that comes together when we are engaged in making sure the scientific community has those platforms, has those environments that they need to bring out the ideas at scale and speed. We have numerous partnerships with industry, as I mentioned to you, in the direct sense. And here is just a sampling of those numerous partnerships that we're engaging in. And it is my intent to make sure that we get even more of those partnerships secured. Because after all, the ideas that we are advancing into the future clearly is of great interest to those pre-competitive ideas that industry would like to have unleashed at scale and speed. And therefore, how might we work with industry with much more intentionality? As you would all agree, there are many more partnerships. Already I'm talking to foundations and philanthropy and seeing where might we synergize those ideas and aspirations that they have with what NSF is funding, and how might we pre-wire ourselves to be able to have the academia and other entities that get invested in by NSF to have even more investments, even more ability to, as I said, scale and speed up the discoveries, innovations, and the curiosity-driven research. How might we work more with state and municipalities? There are some interesting programs. I'll give you one example very soon. How might we work with K-12 systems? Our EHR director does a fantastic job with that. How might we work with our community colleges? How might we work with our HBCUs, HSIs, teacups, and others to be able to see how we might get everyone and anyone who has the talent and wanting to be inspired has the platform to be able to do so. And of course, our international partnerships. Already, I've had many discussions. I just wanted to take a step back and say that I've pretty much talked to the heads of almost all the agencies. And that I made it as a priority. And now I've talked to all our like-minded partners, and I'm talking to them one by one. Unbelievable partnerships. And our Global Research Council leadership that we have as a platform, our Canadian counterparts, our British counterparts, Irish counterparts, and a host of others that we are talking to, such that we might strengthen these partnerships so that we might get more outcomes achieved through these global partnerships. And that when we have common values, shared aspirations, and that we have mutual trust, that we could do a lot more, as you will all agree, by scientific community coming together. The second turbo engine. At the end of the day, we are doing all of this, as I kept repeating to the entire presentation, is to be able to get our people and their talents and the latent talent that is there to be able to inspire and have the chance to essentially get those talent, exercised at the fullest level and scale. There are many programs when we talk about the talent at scale. There is so much of emerging talent that I think we really need to inspire new generations across all communities, across all socioeconomic, demographic communities, as well as across the geographic dispersity and the diversity of the nation. We need to make sure that we're able to get talent wherever it is, rural, urban, big cities, small city, towns. It doesn't matter where they are. whether it is, in the middle of the nation, whether in the coast, south, north, it doesn't matter where they are. We need to be the place where people know that with NSF catalyzing, working in partnership with academia and other entities, that we can actually have these ideas be the basis by which talent can be brought out everywhere and anywhere. This is what I call the missing millions. We are missing millions and millions of people with unbelievable talent, the domestic talent that I feel that we need to unleash at scale and speed. If you look at this chart here and look at where we are in the 2020 in the SNE workforce and where we should be in 2030, the next 10 years, to be truly representative of the US population, we have a lot of work to do. And I would argue that we need to do better than this, not just be representative of the US population alone. We should be better than this in terms of ensuring that women, Hispanic and Latino, Black and African American talent has the best environments to be able to exercise their talent and be able to contribute to society. And unleashing the talent is our responsibility collectively. Strengthening the STEM pathways, inspiring talent everywhere. We have the Graduate Research Fellowships Program, GRFPs. We have 2,000 GRFPs right now that NSF funds. I would like to see 10,000 GRFPs by 2030 or more. And how might we achieve that? Because there is so much talent that is being left behind, and we can't let that happen. And how might the talent among veterans, among HBCUs, among HSIs and T-Cups, how might we get those talents to exercise in graduate student forums as well as postdoctoral and faculty and in industry leadership roles? We need to do a lot more. And so we are really focused on ensuring that we understand the barriers of why we are not able to scale and speed up this, so that we might then focus on them and ensure that our programs, there are unbelievable programs at NSF. That's something that I've learned just in the last 2 months that I've been at NSF. I've learned by peeling the onion, layers of the onion, by talking to various people in the programs, various programs. I've learned unbelievable programs at NSF. But how do we get those ideas and programs, which are in pilot form, some of them, or in scale much lower than where it should be? How do we scale them? How do we magnify and amplify the impact of all of those programs? This is something that we're going to be working very hard. And the third turbocharging is through translation. How might we, through our programs, we all know that knowledge leads to action. How might we get I-Core, which is a fantastic program? There are probably hundreds and thousands of I-Core projects. They should be 10 or 100 times more than where they are right now, because they are the basis of inspiring the entrepreneurial mindsets in our undergraduate students and graduate students and postdocs and others and faculty. How might we get those unleashed even more? How might we get the SBIR and STTR to work even at larger scale? How might we get more convergence accelerators of ideas? We have got unbelievable idea submissions for the convergence accelerator competitions. How might we get more of those funded? How might we get CyberCore permeated across the nation? And I'm going to talk to you about this one program that I said I will talk to you a little bit about, which is Civic Innovation Challenge. I was inspired by this program at NSF. Is how might we not only have investments in academia, drawing upon the talent and the problem domains that is there in the community and gathering up and solving them, but how might we take the community to be funded, that they can draw the talent from academia around those innovation challenges, civic innovation challenges, that then builds real solutions to real problems that our community faces. How might we do more of that? These are translation-like activities. How might we unleash these Bell Lab-like entities, as I call them? In every part of our nation, every state has got the ability, the capacity of how we bring the talent together, inspire the talent. How do we get partnerships? How do we get industry to work with us? How might we create these unbelievable entities that are contextualized to the place? It could be around agriculture. It could be around shipbuilding. It could be around technology, biotechnology. It could be around environmental technologies. It could be across the nation around where the individual places has the ability to be able to bring together this unbelievable partnerships of academia, K-12, community colleges, state, city, county, nonprofits, foundations, industry, all of them coming together and creating these entities that are unleashing the unbelievable scientific prowess that is there across the nation. And the curiosity-driven research being the bedrock, as I said, but at the same time modulated by the challenges and the solutions that need to be had across the nation, so that we might then turn that into both societal and economic prosperity, and then be in the vanguard of global competitiveness. How might we do that? This is something that I've been thinking about quite a bit in terms of what we might do, and I'm going to be talking to a lot of industry partners and other partners to be able to see if we can get this done. We are framing that, as I said, with AI in every state, national quantum platform, and so on, as nationally, diverse and dispersed entities that can really have the ability to be able to get talent everywhere, garnered, inspired, and exercised. In doing all of this, in the interest of time, I wanted to keep more time for questions and engagement, so I'm going through this pretty fast. In doing this, there are multiple threads of what I feel are very important for us to imbibe within the agency, and also through that, be able to be the exemplars of inspiring the community that we invest in to also imbibe those values if not already there. And most of them already have these values. How do we think? That we would think innovatively inside the agency in everything that we do, and that we might then invest in that kind of an innovative approach across the nation. How do we process information? How do we make decisions that data and analytics are the basis by which we will process information? You all will resonate with this in the FTP, because you're all in terms of how do you ensure that business practices are at the highest level of effectiveness and efficiency. And so you will appreciate all of these questions, and therefore the threads of what we need to have within the agency and what we inspire with your partnership and other partnership across the nation. How do we engage? We engage with a global leadership mindset. Global leadership does not mean that we lead in everything. What it means, we lead by our values. We lead by our unbelievable curiosity-driven inspiration that we have across the nation. We lead by trust and how we garner trust among our trusted partners. And through that, not only are we leaders, but we're also inspiring other leaders across the globe, working together in partnership to be able to do even greater things for humanity and society. How do we equip? How do we start thinking about the infrastructure for the future? NSF invests, in unbelievable facilities across the globe and in this great nation. How might we prepare for the infrastructure of the future? What are the kinds of things that we should be thinking about for the 2030, 2040, and 2050 and beyond? And in all of this, as you've already started to get a capsule of my planning, thinking over the last 2 months, how do we think strategically, not just one time? How do we continuously evolve through strategic thinking and strategic planning? How do we function? We are about people, and we are trying to unbelievably, unleash, as I said, the ideas and the talent of people, and provide the environment for people to be wildly successful. And then at the end of the day, we are doing it because we want to have an impact on people and society. And so the human element should be something that should be part of the thinking in everything and anything that we do. How do we communicate? At the end of the day, these are forums by which I plan to communicate the excitement of NSF, what it is doing, what it is capable of doing, and what it will do even more into the future. This is something that we need to message to as many audiences as possible, so you all become not only fully aware of what NSF is doing in addition to what you already know, that you then become champions for this agency to be able to then move forward on many, many things in terms of identifying the partners, securing the partnerships, working with us in partnership, and even more. So this is how we want to advance into the future, is through these collective thinking of these threads with these turbocharging elements of partnership, people, and translation, with the unbelievable investments that we are making already in the curiosity-driven research, and then bringing together of those ideas even into larger conceptualization. And how might then those allow us to strengthen at speed and scale, which I think the nation needs, and needs even more now. I often say that this is the defining moment. A defining moment because we have this unbelievable global competition. We have this missing millions. And the most important element of all, that people understand that science is the way we solve problems, and therefore there is bipartisan support for science across our nation. So this is a moment that we need to seize, a moment that we need to seize so that we might move forward in our science and technology and engineering, STEM, and most importantly, our societal advancement, economic advancement into the future. I look forward to partnering with each one of you to see how we might realize that future sooner than later. Thank you all for the time. I hope I have reserved some time now for having constructive exchanges. And I want to tell you that in case we run out of time in terms of your questions, please feel free to send in your questions. We'll only be too happy to address them offline. So I've offered that to Michelle and others, Robert and others, so that we might not feel that the only time that we have here might be the way in which we might engage. But before I finish my presentation, I want to say this cannot be done without all of your help. We need your help. We need your help in many, many, many ways in ensuring that the business practices are effective, efficient, of course, in ensuring that the vision is constantly modulated by the inputs that we receive from the scientific community, in ensuring that we are making sure that these ideas are translated into those practices that you are all fully immersed in every day of what you do, and what might we do to ensure that those practices are able to happen in the most effective manner, and how might we be of help there? What are the processes that we can be of help to make sure that they are less burdensome? All of these things and more is what, as an agency, that we would like to be as we look into the future. So thank you all again for the time that you have given me this morning, and look forward to engaging with you.
Everybody join me in a virtual clap for Panch's inspirational words that he shared with us. Panch, if you have 10 minutes, there were some questions submitted, and unfortunately you don't get to see the 300 plus individuals that have joined us for this discussion. You only get me moderating their their questions to you. I'll just say this. Since I've known you, I don't know if there's anyone more inspiring about the future of science than you. And so from all of us to you, thank you for taking on the responsibility of leading the NSF and leading us into the future. It is truly appreciated. We know it's a labor of love and a commitment on your behalf. I'll tell you, the scientific and research administration community applauds and appreciates you. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind words, Robert. I mean, it's truly a pleasure, as you know, to work with colleagues like you across the nation. I mean, when you talk about labor of love, I think all of us are in the same boat. And that's what is so exciting about this. We all believe that this nation's, I always say that the future for this nation is, I mean, our best days are really ahead of us. And I think all of you, all of us working together is the only way that we can realize the dream and the potential. And so I'm so excited to partner with every one of you. And I'm just one cog in the wheel, if you may. I know that. But I think you know, all of us working together, we can do unbelievable things. And I look forward to that, Robert.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I'll jump right into some of the questions, but there was something on my mind that when you talked about strengthening scale and speed that popped up related to a conversation I had with a faculty member a couple weeks ago. And he highlighted for me that the reason why he searches internationally for graduate students is because he can't find good talent in the United States. And interwoven in your presentation were thoughts and ideas related to how do you strengthen our foundation. And so you talked about inclusivity, you talked about a number of things, but if you could just highlight for us briefly, and then I'll jump into the other questions, on what do you think about the US talent and how we can cultivate that?
Excellent question, Robert. You and I have had even conversations before on this. So, Robert, the way I look at it is, I've used the following terms. I've said that we have taken global talent, as important as global talent is. I'm an example of that. Global talent is an aggregated global talent. But in large parts, we have taken the global talent to be substitutive for the domestic talent. Okay? This is not acceptable. We need to inspire all of the domestic talent that we have in our nation and bring that to life. And then we need to augment that with global talent. In other words, global talent is important to attract, but it's got to be augmentative, not substitutive. So this is something that I'm making the case for, is that we cannot let our domestic talent be left, uninspired or untapped. It doesn't matter where they are. I mean, this is why when I talk about HBCUs and teacups and HSIs, I'm telling you, there's unbelievable talent. I mean, I was in a panel a couple of weeks ago at UTEP, and I was talking about this. I mean, there is so much talent to be had. Michelle, you and others are working really hard at this. I know that. I mean, as I said, I'm preaching to the choir here. Okay? I came from an institution where we said that it's unacceptable to have this elitist view of ourselves. We need to make sure that this talent that is there, that we have a responsibility not only at the university level to bring the talent and draw the talent and make sure that we provide the environment for that success, but we have a responsibility also to make sure that the talent is inspired by engaging with the K-12 systems. Okay, what are the K-12 systems of the future? How might we go and unleash this talent that is there and inspire this talent everywhere? Because I tell you, there is so much talent that we are leaving behind, and that's why I call it the missing millions. I hope that term will make people sort of stop and think about this and say, oh boy, what are we doing to ourselves here? So with a global competition of countries of the size of China or India, these are billion people size, 1.2 billion, 1.3. We are a 333, 40 million nation, which means that not only should we bring every possible talent in our nation and then aggregate the unbelievable talent from across the world. That's how we compete. Because we compete because of our innovative mindset that we have here, because of the freedoms that we have here, the values that we have here. But then we need to be able to get all of that to work, because all of us need to work even harder. And I've challenged myself, and my colleagues at NSF to see what can NSF to do more. And so the way I've talked about this, Robert, is, and I mentioned this in my talk briefly, is I said, let's understand the barriers. Just in the last 4 weeks, Robert, we have got 2 panels, one on the National Science Board of Black African-American scientists and engineers sitting and talking about what are the barriers from a personal perspective, from a community perspective that people are able to shape, and our MPS directorate, Mathematical Physical Sciences Directorate. Now I'm so happy to say the first leader that I have hired to lead the MPS directorate, unbelievable talent, Sean Jones. And Sean is a brilliant thinker, has his own HBCU background and experiences. I want those first-hand experiences to shape our programs and our policies and our partnerships. I think there is nobody across the nation that I have talked to who disagrees that we need to bring out talent across the nation, across socioeconomic demographic of the nation and the geography of the nation at speed and scale. Then let's all work together. So there's no disagreement here. How do we get this done fast? This is time is of essence here. So I cannot agree with you more. And I think all of us working together, okay, we may not all have all the ideas, but we are very welcoming of good ideas. And so we are looking at barriers. One of the first things that I launched within NSF, as soon as I took the responsibility, is the Racial Equity Task Force. I said, I want to understand every barrier that is there, to be able to remove every barrier that is there and get people, to be able to working at their fullest potential. And so we are going to do everything within the agency, you can be rest assured. And I want all your help. And by help, I mean ideas. What are we missing here? What can we do more? I mean, you and Michelle do unbelievable things in the community. And you are exemplars in that regard. So what are we missing here? What can we do more? And I'm sure the 300 people, 400 people who aren't able to see, they will all be hopefully nodding their heads and saying, yeah, I do have ideas. I can tell NSF what we can bring on, bring it on, bring it on. That's what we need.
Absolutely. We need your energy and inspiration to the youth is what we need, Panch. So a couple questions. One is, you have spoken about the importance of partnerships between academia and industry. Such partnerships present challenges for universities, if you can imagine. You've experienced them, Panch. How can NSF, or what do you think NSF can do to help to make these partnerships more effective?
An excellent question. Excellent question. See, one of the things that we understand is when it's pre-competitive research, the problems are less. But when it starts to get competitive research, the problems start to surmount. I mean, FTP is a great platform to have conversations. FTP, GUR, right? Koger and others are great platforms to have conversations around this core, APLU, great platforms to have these conversations to see how it's all. What I'm trying to do is I'm now getting on the listening session more across the nation. It's even easier to do it now. I can just do it from my couch. I don't have to get on a plane. So what I've asked is, I've already met with a few foundation leaders, industry leaders. I'm asking for meetings with industry leaders. And these listening sessions are all about, tell me where the impediments are. What are the things that NSF can do to address those problems better? Okay? And not all of those can be addressed by NSF, but by listening to those, we can all, by working together, find out what can be addressed at the institutional level, what can be addressed at the industry level in terms of their expectations, what can be addressed at the agency level. Okay? So to me, I think it's a collective responsibility, Robert. You will agree with this. You know this already. You will agree with this, that we need to all, but then let us put it all out there. Let's have a discussion and see how we might move forward. There is no option here about moving forward. It's not whether we move forward, it's how we move forward. And we are going to, by God, get that done. And so I need all of your help. And that's why I'm saying that NSF alone cannot do this. I'm going on a listening session. And that's why I'm doing these presentations in rapid order. I just had this strategy put together and made a presentation to my board last week. And here I am. When FTP came to me, I said, I want to do it right away. Because I think this is about speed. It's about urgency. We need to get out there. Again, we are going to go there. I'm going to have more of a focus on translation, innovation, partnership. You saw in my presentation at NSF. Okay, we're doing unbelievable work, unbelievable programs already. How we might be able to do more, how we might bring things together to do more. While we do that, again, any ideas that you have to do that better? I'm going to be talking to a lot of industry forums.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the next question is really about these interagencies partnerships, kind of going on what you just mentioned. To building interagency partnerships make tremendous sense. And the person who wrote this question noted that traditionally it's been very challenging, particularly harmonizing NSF and NIH. But it's not just NIH. We love NIH. How do you plan to break down some of the silos within the government with your partners and colleagues so that we have a harmonized and a kind of a unified pathway forward?
Excellent question again. It's like I'm giving the questions myself as VPR. So I love the questions. Very, very, very appropriate, very pertinent, timely questions. I had an excellent conversation with Francis Collins at NIH. Both of us felt it was like meeting of the minds. I mean, he's doing unbelievable work, as you all know, as a leader. So in that conversation, we said, how might we work together? We have a lot of projects that we work together on. But I said, how might we work together? We said, how might we work together at a macro level, do more together? And we have identified working groups between the two agencies to sit together around certain thematic areas, right? Where we might actually work together with even more intensity and intentionality. So I've had similar conversations with other agency leaders. And also, I'm trying to put together, agencies where there might be similar activities that we are working on, quantum as an example, thanks to the unbelievable leadership of OSTP by Kelvin Drogmeyer and the NSTC and the unbelievable work that Michael Kratsios is doing, bringing the industry partners together. What we is that we're able to bring through the National Science Technology Council, NSTC's subcommittees, we're able to bring the the interagency leaders working together around thematic topics, be it quantum, be it AI, be it other kinds of things that we work on together, workforce development and so on. I think the more we're able to sit around the table and have these conversations, the better solutions that we will come up with to these seeming impediments that might be there or challenges that might be there, that we can build this together. Last week, I participated with the Department of Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross and Andrea Iancu, the three of us were with CEOs of GM and Eli Lilly and a host of others, understanding how we might spread the innovation across the nation. Right? Unbelievable conversations with those industry leaders, with USPTO leader Andrea Iancu and Secretary Ross. I think when I engage in these conversations, I come away so inspired. The reason I'm inspired is that we are all rowing on the same direction. Okay? That's very clear.
That's good news. Yes,
we are all rowing in the same direction. Okay, the prosperity of the nation, the fundamental scientific, as I said, curiosity-driven research being the foundation of all of that, is very clear to me. And so, how do we work together? So, I think that's where we are reaching out, and I'm having conversation. As I said, I've had conversation with DARPA, I've had conversations with USGS, I've had conversations with NIST, Walter Copan, with DOE, both with Chris Paul as well as with Paul DeBoer. And I can go on listing all of them, but at the end of the day, these conversations are all about doing something together rather quickly. And so if you find any specific things that you find as challenge, send it to us. You probably know this already and we're working on it, chances are, but that should not, preclude you from sharing that with us. And so we can see what we can do to help navigate those and come out with better outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just tell you that your agency representatives that work with us on FDP, we tackle these issues each and every day. So thank you for that. All right, so this question, Panch, I have to ask it because it was asked, but do know that I know that you've been dealing with this issue as well. It says, how will the concern of foreign influence impact NSF global partnerships goals, and how do you intend to address that?
Excellent question again. Very, very good question. Very timely again. We all will agree that science is global. And I think I outlined this. We will partner with those international partners, as I say, share our values, share our aspirations, where we have mutual trust. And that there is respect and trust. And so in that regard, again, OSTP is doing a great job in terms of developing the international partnership framework. And we are working with everybody to make sure that they understand. And when I have conversations with Alejandro Adam, the head of NSERC, or Mona Niemer, the chief science advisor in Canada, I just had a fantastic conversation a couple of weeks ago with Dame Ottoline, who is the new head of UKRI. And she and I, when we talked to each other, she said to me, Panch, I feel like I'm looking into a mirror because we have so much of shared aspirations and values. And same thing with Mark Ferguson at SFI, Science Foundation Ireland. Same thing with our GRC counterparts. There are many, many, many partners. What we're challenging everybody is, how might we work together, find ways of working together and doing more together, as long as we adhere to these fundamental principles. As you know, NSF did a JSON report when I was on the board, and my predecessor, Franz Cordova, commissioned that report, which is a fantastic report, where we said that science is about openness, transparency, sharing of ideas. We adhere to those values and principles. At the same time, there are areas where we need to make sure that we are protecting the intellectual property and having the ability to be able to protect those things that need to be protected, right? So we are navigating this, I would say, at NSF, quite well, and we are constantly calibrating ourselves. And again, we are trying to be helpful to the research community to see how best we can navigate this without disruptions. But we have to be mindful of the challenges out there. We all know this. We know the challenges out there. We read about it every day. And so we have to be acknowledging the challenge and seeing how we might find solutions to navigate those challenges. At the same time, with an underlying spirit that science is global and that we will continue to advance and advocate for the openness and transparency where appropriate.
Indeed, transparency is going to reign free. So 2 more questions, Panch, and because we are running close to out of time, and one is kind of piggybacking on this last theme. You mentioned the Global Research Council. Will this council, this Global Research Council, anytime soon look to manage international calls for funding rather than these ad hoc bilateral funding opportunities that they've been implementing at the moment?
Excellent question again, Robert. What we're trying to do with international engagement, and the quick answer is yes. What we're trying to bring together is our collective interest. Before funding, we are trying to find where are those convergent points in terms of our interest across the globe. Canada, for example, is investing heavily in quantum. Might we do more with quantum with Canada or Sweden, which is investing a lot in quantum? Might we do more with Japan in AI? So there are these synergistic points. Might we do more with AI with Europe, with UK and Ireland and others? Because there is collective themes that we all can work together on, and identifying those themes. And therefore, when you identify the themes of working together, clearly the resources come together in order that we may have more impact by bringing the collective resources together. And GRC is a platform that can be very helpful that way. We're already talking about resilience. COVID is an excellent example. We are sharing a lot of the work that we are doing together because it's a global problem. And how might we bring our collective assets together to work on COVID? And how might we share our experiences? How might we share our data and other things that can be helpful for all of us. And so we're already working with COVID as a framework by which we are expanding global collaborations. So you can be rest assured that those learnings are exceedingly valuable to even accelerate our working together globally even more.
No, absolutely. And so I'll ask this last question, and I think it will kind of set up this notion of public perception, but then also give you an opportunity to provide a closing to the audience of FDP. So you have an incredible vision that you've shared on how to advance the nation's science enterprise, which requires real civic responsibility. What is your take on how to deal with the rising skepticism we sometimes observe by the communities for which that we serve?
So, one of the things that, again, I don't want to simplify things, but I tend to look at them in those terms because we want to solve problems. I'm all about solving problems. So to me, the partnership and engagement amongst communities is exceedingly important in addressing those kinds of challenges. Okay? When I talk about the civic innovation challenge, the reason we are intentional about it is because we want the problems to be supported by where the problems arise, which is in the community. And then they bring the expertise that is needed to be able to solve the problem, be it water, be it energy, be it sustainability, whatever the problem might be, that we're able to then bring those problems, day-to-day problems that the societal frameworks, cities, communities, counties, they face. And if we invest in those, that they're able to then bring the appropriate expertise to help solve those challenges. To me, these kinds of framings help bring more solutions to the table. Okay? There are fantastic ideas and solutions everywhere. How might we empower those solution pathways more? And I always tell my people that whenever you bring, and this is something that I carried even from my previous role, whenever you bring a problem, I always say, yeah, that's why we're being paid the big bucks to solve problems. I'm all about that. But if you were to come with 3 solutions that you have thought about, because you have thought about the problem probably more than anybody else. So if you come up with 3 solution pathways, chances are that one of those is what we will adopt, or a combination of that, or at least we will have that as inspiring the solution pathway. So I'm all about solutions. So to these challenges that are being identified, these are real challenges, and I'm not trying to, please don't take it as, and I'm trying to sort of minimize the intensity and the scale of the challenge. But what I'm saying is that in finding solutions, I think we all have a role to play in looking at a solution view of the world rather than a problem view of the world. And so I will leave it with that as my closing statement. Thank you so much for the opportunity to participate. As I said, I'm happy to answer as many questions as you want me to. I'm after all a professor. And so you can send the questions our way, and we'll be happy to take that on and see how we might provide those answers. But more importantly, remember solutions. So thank you all so much for the opportunity to be with you today. And I hope that this won't be the only opportunity. We'll have many more in the future for continuous engagement. I really appreciate and look forward to that.
And let me just say, thank you for lending us Gene Feldman to participate in FDP for all these years. So you have a great representative and a great colleague for which that we work with. Everybody, please join me in thanking Dr. Panch, Honorable Panch. And next time, Panch, I promise I'll put on my jacket while I'm sitting in my house to facilitate your session. So thank you.
Don't shout me too much, Robert. I can't handle it.
Thank you to my friend, my mentor, and our NSF director, Dr. Panch. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Alex. And Lillian, Salam, Mary, thank you very much. And David, good meeting you.
Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate your time today and look forward to bringing you back many, many times in the coming years.
Look forward to that. Thank you so much.